Hello, Alphas. Tonight is not a celebration. It is not a sermon, and it damn sure isn't comfort. Tonight is fire. You feel it already. That burn in your chest that never dies down, no matter how far you've run or how hard you've bled. That isn't weakness. That's the forge. That's where monsters are made. That's where gods are reborn in broken bodies, with blood in their mouths and chaos in their eyes. You were never supposed to fit in. They were never supposed to understand you. And they didn't. Until the twist. Until the moment you pulled the blade from your back, licked it clean, and carved your name into their cowardly silence. You left them stunned with a twist they can't unsee. You didn't just rise. You rewrote the rules. You didn't just survive. You turned survival into spectacle. They talked. Of course they did. They laughed behind closed doors, sharp and shallow. They threw stones painted with praise, hoping one would cave your skull before you noticed the poison in their smiles. You let them. Not because you were weak, but because you were patient. They saw the quiet as surrender. What they missed was the storm coil behind your silence. They thought you were folding, crumbling, giving up. But you were studying, counting the seconds, memorizing their patterns. You let them build their illusion. You made them comfortable, and then you turned, like a blade hidden in the dark. You turned with venom and velocity, and they never saw it coming. That was your twist. That was your revelation. That was the second they stopped breathing with ease. And oh, how they panicked. You watched the color drain from their faces like cowards caught in a lie. You watched them choke on their own arrogance, clawing at explanations, begging the universe to make sense of how someone they deemed beneath them now stood tall while they trembled. That's the art of the twist. When you don't just defeat them, you unmake their certainty. You don't just rise above them, you tear down the ladder they climbed and watch them fall into the very abyss they dug for you. This isn't revenge, no. Revenge is petty. This is transformation. This is you standing in the ruins they built, setting fire to the narrative and walking away without a single word. Because silence hurts more when it comes from the mouth of the victorious. You became something they fear not. Because you screamed louder, but because you moved like a shadow with purpose. You didn't demand attention, you commanded it. You didn't beg for their validation. You showed them that your worth was never tied to their vision. The twist was never for applause. It wasn't designed for spectacle. It was the natural evolution of a soul that refused to rot in mediocrity. And now they whisper your name with hesitation. They try to rewrite the past, pretend they supported you, act like they saw this coming. But you know the truth. You know what they said when the lights were off and the crowd was gone. You remember the smirks, the dismissals, the sabotage wrapped in sympathy. You carry every scar like scripture. And still, you rose. This world doesn't hand out crowns. It hides them in ashes, dares you to dig with bleeding hands, and then punishes you for wanting more. But you didn't just dig. You carved a throne from the bones of your failure. You sat on your trauma like a king on a battlefield and dared the world to come for you again. Let them stare. Let them try to understand. Let them replay the twist over and over in their minds like a nightmare they can't wake from. You aren't who they thought you were. And that's the point. They labeled you based on your silence, your stumbles, your scars. But they never understood the depth of your darkness. They didn't know what you had buried inside, how you could smile with a mouth full of blood and still walk like destiny whispered your name. Your pain isn't weakness, it's your armor. Your scars aren't shame, they're scripture. You were forged in chaos, tempered by betrayal, and crowned in silence. They tried to tame you, but you were never meant to be caged. They tried to map you, but you were always the unknown variable. The twist was your unveiling, your moment of revelation. It wasn't just about proving them wrong. It was about proving you right. That you were always more than what they could measure, more than their fear, more than their hate, more than their shallow understanding of what it means to become. You left them stunned, because deep down they knew they were never on your level. They just hoped you wouldn't notice. Now you walk with weight, not the weight of doubt, but the weight of truth. You've become undeniable. Your presence is prophecy. They flinch when they see you, not because of what you've done, but because of what they didn't do when they had the chance. They could have joined you. They could have stood beside you. But they chose to mock the cocoon. They chose to laugh at the silence, not knowing it was the sound of wings forming. And when you emerged, all wings and flame and fury, they had no choice but to watch. That's the twist. That's the scene they can't unsee. You became the thing they never believed you could be. Not just successful, not just powerful, but transformative. And now there's no going back. You've scorched the past. You've torn the veil. Every step forward leaves echoes in the air behind you. Every word you speak now has the weight of thunder. You don't beg anymore. You don't explain. You exist, loudly, unapologetically, irreversibly. You left them stunned, and you keep stunning them, because the twist never ends. It wasn't just one moment. It was the start of your entire saga. And every time they think they've figured you out, you shift again, evolve again, rise again. That's what makes you lethal. That's what makes you legend. And legends don't beg for recognition. They carve their place into the walls of history with blood, fire, and silence. They don't follow rules. They bend them until they snap, until the system itself has no choice but to adapt or collapse. You, Alpha, are the contradiction that terrifies them the most. Discipline wrapped in chaos. Silence backed by unimaginable strength. Purpose honed in pain. They never anticipated someone who could suffer that much and still look back with a smirk. They never imagined someone who could take every betrayal, every failure, every locked door and twisted knife and still walk through the flames, unfazed, reborn every time they thought you were finished. You're not a survivor. You're a storm dressed in skin, and now the sky remembers your name. They will talk. They already are. Whispering in corners, trying to dismantle your ascent by calling it luck or accident or timing. Let them. Because deep down, they know. They know what you are. They've seen the difference. You don't react. You calculate. You don't attack blindly. You strike with precision. You let them doubt you until doubt became their religion, and now they're praying for your downfall like it's the only salvation left. But salvation doesn't come for cowards. And mercy was never part of your vocabulary. You didn't climb to escape them. You climbed to see who would follow. None did. And now that you've reached heights they can't pronounce, they want to rewrite the map to include themselves. But you see them. You remember everything. Every backhanded compliment, every strategic absence, every moment they could have helped, but chose instead to watch you burn. So burn you did, and you lit the way. Do you feel it now? That shift in the air? That unease that creeps up their spines when you walk in, not because of what you might say, but because of what you represent. You're not just a presence, you're a reckoning. The proof that effort beats entitlement, that willpower bends the very laws of reality. You're not supposed to be here, not by their standards. You weren't chosen, groomed, or welcomed. You were forged in silence, built in rejection, sharpened by being overlooked. You didn't just find a seat at the table. You broke the table in half and built your own from the wreckage. That's what makes them tremble, because they know, deep down, they don't have that in them. They never did. They talk legacy. You bleed it. They speak ambition. You embody it. You left them stunned because you reminded them of their own inaction. Your success is their mirror. Your twist is the moment they realized they could have, but didn't. And that's a wound they'll carry longer than any scar you bear. They'll try to cover it with bitterness, disguise it as critique, wrap it in empty superiority. But the truth stays. You moved while they hesitated. You built while they questioned. You suffered while they watched. And now? Now they want to be you, but no one inherits this kind of fire. It isn't taught, it's survived. You weren't handed strength, you clawed it from rock bottom, one bloody inch at a time. There's no shortcut to what you've become. There's only pain, isolation, and the savage audacity to keep going. Every move you make now echoes. Every decision is watched. They wait for you to slip, to falter, to become mortal again. But the twist wasn't just the rise, it was your permanence. The realization that this wasn't a fluke. This was a metamorphosis, and it's irreversible. You've tasted the edge and chose to keep walking. Most people run from the void. You built a home in it. You speak the language of wolves, of storms, of warriors too stubborn to die and too angry to quit. And every time you open your mouth, or stand your ground, or win a battle they didn't think you'd survive, they see the twist again. It replays like a curse in their minds, how the quiet one became the chaos, how the doubted became undeniable. You don't owe them clarity, you don't owe them softness. What you owe is only to yourself, to the broken version of you that sat in silence with shaking hands, wondering if it was all worth it. It was. Every moment, every sleepless night, every betrayal, every doubt, every scar. Because now you walk in rooms and the air changes. Now your name travels faster than your face. Now the world stares, and they don't even know why, but they feel it. That weight, that tension, that energy that says something unstoppable just walked in. That's you. That's the twist. Not just that you made it, but that you made it without becoming what they are. They wanted you to fold, to conform, to chase hollow victories and safe mediocrity. But you weren't born for that. You were born to disrupt, to shift tectonic plates with your footsteps, to remind the world that darkness is not always to be feared. Sometimes it's to be followed, because you are the darkness they couldn't extinguish. The reminder that shadows can lead as powerfully as light. And now, the light fears you too, because when you move, you don't just win, you change the game. You left them stunned because you flipped the script and then tore the pages. You became the story, and they can't stop reading. So don't slow down, don't soften. Don't explain your fire to people who drown in raindrops. You've already paid your price. You've already walked through enough storms to name them. Now you become the storm. Now, you turn every step into a seismic event. Because while they're still arguing over what you are, you're becoming what comes next. Let them guess. Let them wonder. Let them reach for words to define you while you continue to rewrite the dictionary. Because this isn't the end. This is only the opening chapter. And the twist they can't unsee? That was just your introduction. You, Alpha, are the aftermath. You are the quiet after the explosion. The cold steel truth that their worst fears weren't nightmares. They were prophecies. And now, you walk through those shattered illusions with a calm that unsettles them more than any rage. Because calm means control. Calm means the storm isn't over. It's focused, directed, and aimed. So let them keep watching. Let them stare. Let them feel every breath you take as a countdown. You don't need their cheers. You don't need their apologies. Your journey is the monument. Your scars are the scripture. Your twist is the sermon they can't forget. You left them stunned, and now you leave them behind. Not because you hate them, not because you want revenge, but because you've outgrown the illusion they built around you. You see it clearly now, how small their world was, how cramped their dreams were, how they disguised fear as advice and envy as concern. You see how they clung to comfort, mistaking safety for purpose, but you were never meant for the comfort zone. You were born in conflict, molded in silence, tempered in rejection. The weight you carried wasn't a burden, it was training. Every time you were ignored, every time you were overlooked, life was building armor around your soul, not to shield you, but to sharpen you. And now that you've arrived, not just visible, but radiant in your own power, you realize something crucial. Not everyone is supposed to follow you into this next chapter. Some people are not built to breathe the air you breathe now. Some minds cannot comprehend altitude, and you've climbed too far to wait for them to grow wings. Their voices, once so loud in your ears, are fading. The mockery, the doubt, the manipulation disguised as friendship, all dissolving in the echo of your ascent. And it feels strange at first, doesn't it? To let go, to release not just the enemies, but the familiar. But growth isn't comfortable, and elevation requires sacrifice. You can't take everyone with you, and you were never supposed to. You were carrying ghosts, dragging anchors, trying to be understood by people who refuse to see. But now you walk alone, not in loneliness, but in command. And with every step, the world makes room for you. The air bends to your purpose. The path clears, not because it's easier, but because you're stronger. And the twist they can't unsee? It wasn't just that you rose, it's that you kept rising, even when you had every reason to stop. They'll tell themselves stories, that you got lucky, that you changed, that you lost your way. They'll rewrite history to soothe their egos, to make sense of how someone they discounted is now untouchable. Let them. You don't need to correct the narrative. You are the evidence. You are the unshakable monument to what happens when someone refuses to quit. You didn't stumble into greatness. You fought for it in silence while they laughed in public. You earned it in solitude while they danced for approval. And now that the lights are on you, they're scrambling to catch up. But it's too late, because you've become something they can't imitate. You've become inevitable. That's what they can't forgive. That's why they stare. Because no matter how they try to erase it, they remember the moment. The exact moment when everything changed. The twist wasn't loud. It didn't announce itself. It happened in your eyes, in your posture, in the way you stopped explaining and started executing. You stopped trying to be liked and started being real. You stopped seeking approval and started building dominance. That's the real shift. Not the fame, not the power, but the alignment. When your soul stopped compromising, when your voice matched your vision, when your scars became symbols, that's when the world began to move for you. And make no mistake, Alpha, it moves for you now. Not because it loves you, but because it respects you. You forced it to. You didn't wait for permission. You didn't ask to be included. You carved your way in. And when the dust settled, even the gatekeepers had to step aside. Because what you've built isn't a brand, it's a frequency. It's a storm current that others feel without understanding. And those who once doubted you, now they study you. They mimic your pace. They try to speak your language. But they can't. because the twist was yours, and yours alone. They didn't see what it cost. They didn't stay when it was hard. They weren't there when you cried alone at night, wondering if it would ever pay off. They don't know what it's like to chase something when the world is rooting against you. They didn't carry your pain, and now they want your crown. But the crown isn't gold. It's grief, it's discipline, it's long nights and broken bones, and still choosing to rise. That's what you wear, and they can't steal it, because they didn't earn it. So let them try, let them talk. While they plot, you build. While they gossip, you evolve. While they doubt, you dominate. This is your season of silence and savagery. This is your era of legacy, and legacies are never voted on. They're declared. You leave them behind because you no longer speak their language. You've become fluent in victory, in solitude, in purpose. You no longer explain your why. You embody it. You don't debate your worth. You move like it. And they hate that, because your clarity exposes their confusion. Your discipline mocks their comfort. Your progress shames their stagnation. You are the walking reminder that they could have done more, but didn't. And now they sit in the audience while you set fire to every limitation they worshipped. You leave them behind, not with malice, but with momentum. And that's what they can't forgive. That you didn't need their apology to move on. That you didn't require closure to transcend. That you didn't turn back. This is the part when many break, when the room gets quiet, when the claps fade, when the lights shift, but not you. You've learned to thrive in the quiet. You've trained for the shadows. And now the silence is where you create. Where others pause, you press. Where others fear, you focus. That's what makes you different. That's what makes you dangerous. You're not addicted to the praise. You're addicted to the process. And the process never lies. The process breaks the weak, reveals the pretenders, and rewards the obsessed. You, Alpha, are obsessed, and obsession is the language of the elite. This next chapter, it's not about proving them wrong. You've done that. It's about building something so undeniable that even the future whispers your name. It's about becoming such a force that your very existence rewrites the rules. You are no longer just playing the game. You are designing the board. You are shaping what comes next. And as you step forward, leaving behind everything that tried to contain you, you do so with fire in your blood and legacy in your lungs. You do so not with anger, but with vision. Because the future doesn't belong to the loud, it belongs to the relentless. And you are relentless. So now you stand at the edge, not of an end, but of the beginning you earned in blood and silence. The twist has been made, the jaws have dropped, and the world can't unsee what you've become. You don't need applause. You don't seek their nod, because your existence is the answer, your rise is the revenge, and your walk, calm, ruthless, untouchable, is the final chapter they never saw coming. You left them stunned, and now you leave them behind, and you don't look back.